All right, hi everybody. Just give me 1 second to get onto the call in case people are calling in. And if you haven't grabbed your glass of bubbly, go ahead and grab that. And we will get started. All right. Hello, who do I have on the line? Hi, Jennifer. Let me just mute everybody just so there's not any background noise. All right, so sorry, I'm just getting some tech stuff out of the way. I think we are good to go. And again, if you haven't grabbed your wine or your beer or whatever your drink of choice is, go ahead and do that. Okay. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So thank you everybody for joining. I'm really excited about this call, and I'm really excited about the new direction of my business. So just to give you a little bit of background, I know some people probably know more than others, but for the past year or so, I've been running a health coaching business where I work with women who they come to me because they want to lose weight, but what I really help them with is body image and confidence and releasing perfection, especially when you talk about like those last 5 pounds. And through working with my clients as well as women in my community, what kept coming up was dating and relationships. Either women said they didn't want to get out there and date because they didn't feel good in their body, or because or even married women had issues with intimacy with their husbands because they didn't feel comfortable in their bodies. So, and then when I looked back at my own story with my relationship to my body and weight loss, I actually noticed that it was very intricately intertwined with how I dated and how I felt about myself. So when I go back and look at the different guys that I was with, both good and bad relationships, there's definitely parallels to how I was feeling about myself at the time. So through that, and besides the fact that I love to nerd out over talking about dating and also dating profiles, I am switching my business around. So I know some of you were participating in my beta Date Yourself program, which I so appreciate. And that's been a lot of fun to do myself as well as to lead. And it's been really great to see just to see the different progress and things that people have seen and learned in their own lives by putting themselves first. So that is that. So that is where I'm at now. And let's go ahead and get going. I just remember that what I promised to talk about, the 3 mistakes that I think smart women make when dating and relationships, how to get over your ex, stop playing victim, and stop repeating negative patterns, and then also to discover love blocks. To figure out what is stopping you from getting into a relationship that you want, and also to figure out just some things you may not be noticing that you're doing that's actually sabotaging relationships. Before we get started, I just want to share my own 2 truths that I believe about dating, relationships, and self-development, all of that stuff. So the first thing is I do not believe in soulmates. So I'm sorry if you do, and if you do, that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with believing in soulmates. It's something that I just personally don't believe. I believe that there are a lot of different paths that we can take in our lives, and there's a lot of different people that can make us happy, and there's a lot of different things or types of relationships that we can have. And no matter if you believe in soulmates or not, it's impossible for any one person to give you everything that you need in that intimate of a relationship. So that's why we have close friends, that's why we have family, that's why we might have therapists or coaches. So no one person can be your everything. So, but what I do believe, though, is that you can make choices about what you need in your romantic relationship, and whether or not like the choices that we end up making is actually the universe sending us our soulmate. You know, I don't know. Maybe that is true, but what I do think that is if you date to find your soulmate, you are setting yourself up for failure. You put so much pressure on yourself. You put so much pressure on the other person. And it's also just, it's a little, it can be a little intimidating or scary for the other person. So I don't know if anyone here watches How I Met Your Mother, but there are so many brilliant dating lessons in that show, which I will blog about soon because I just have tons of ideas. But Ted dates the main character, he dates to find his soulmate, and he's looking out to find the perfect girl, but the perfect girl doesn't actually exist. The other thing that I want to say is, about self-development. So people love to make fun of self-development, the self-help aisle in the bookstore, all that fun stuff. But what I want to caution you is that I don't believe that anyone, myself included, or you, or anyone really needs fixing. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. What I think is the issue is there's so much crap out there in society, and so much crap out there from what we hear from our parents or from family and friends, that those become our truths, or what we think is our truths, but really it just muddles us. It's just crap, and we just have to like release. So it's kind of like an onion. You're just peeling layer after layer after layer off, so that your truer self can shine through. Okay, so you're not broken. You don't have to be fixed. All right, so what I want to talk about now are the 3 mistakes that I think smart women make. Before we jump into that, I just want to make sure that no one has been having issues getting into the call or anything like that. So just give me one quick second. But I don't see anything, so I think we are good to go. All right. Okay. All right. Who just came in on the Uber conference? Hi, how are you? No, that's okay. I'm just gonna go ahead and mute you, but I'm so happy you're here. Okay, and the only thing that you missed so far, Elena, is just a little bit about me and my business, but since you were a yoga student of mine, you know a little bit more. And I just told my 2 things that I believe, and just very quickly, I believe that there's no such thing as soulmates. And I think we actually talked about this the other day. And what's the other things? Oh, we don't need to be fixed. There's nothing broken. It's just peeling the layers off to our truer selves, that the onion peels, so to speak. The layers that we have to pull off are just gunk that we acquired from what society tells us to be true, or what parents or any friends, anything like that, they tells us is the truth. So we're just releasing all that. Okay, so moving on. So the 3 mistakes that I think smart women make. The first one is, so smart women are successful. They have amazing jobs. They may make a lot of money. They may have gone to amazing schools, have a lot of degrees behind their name. And we tend to, I think, judge other people if they don't live up to those standards. I know I've definitely done that before. I mean, when I was doing online dating, I would just scroll through and look at, try to judge people based on their school or their career, or what kind of job they had based on, and that would, help me decide whether or not I should go out with them. And I know that when you're doing online dating, there's so much out there that you have to have some sort of way to weed people out. I'm not sure that's the best way to weed people out, and we'll talk a little bit later about what might be a better way to weed people out. And I just want to give a couple of examples. So when I was living in Washington, D.C., I was dating a lot, and it's actually where I met my current partner that I have now. But I would, and I was working in a nonprofit, and we did advocacy on the Hill, and I came from working from a political campaign, the Obama campaign, and before that I was working in a law firm where I was doing international law. So, you know, I had definitely had a lot of experience in the political world, the world where I was very socially and politically active, and so that's what I thought I needed in a relationship from another person, and so that's what I was looking for. And if someone was working like in a law firm or in what I would call quote unquote soulless, I would just completely write that person off, because I'm like, well, they sold their soul to work in a law firm. You know, there's no way that I'll ever be able to connect with them. But the truth is that I have no idea what really their story is. Maybe they're working at a law firm because they just need to pay off law school and then they want to go do something amazing. Or maybe they're just working in a law firm because that kind of law firm because they need to, you know, he wants to help his parents retire and they can't afford to retire. I mean, there's so many things that could be going on. And even with the people that I was going on dates with, these people that I thought were perfect on paper, worked at amazing social or political organizations, had very similar outlook into those types of things that I had. A lot of times they ended up being an asshole. And I'm not going to just make a blanket statement, because we'll talk about blanket statements in just a few minutes. But I definitely found myself, you know, going out these people that I thought looked good on paper, but like emotionally, intellectually, they just weren't there. I didn't think they were nice people. I have a theory. I don't know if it's true. My theory is that they're not compensated financially, and so since they work at nonprofits or things like that, and so they have to compensate by feeding their ego. It's my theory, but that's a little off topic. And so the other thing that I want to say about judging is when you do make a blanket statement about someone, oh, he's so boring, or the guys in this city, or he's so uninteresting, or just something like that, what I would encourage you to do is to actually reverse that statement and see if the reverse is true. So, for example, let's say you went out with the guy and you're like, oh, he's so boring, or all the guys I go out with, they're so boring. Or all the guys in the city are so superficial, they just care about looks or whatever. Well, reverse the statement. Are you being boring? Are you being superficial? Like, are you only looking at superficial characteristics as well? And 9 times out of 10, when you reverse the statement, that actually tends to be true. And once you start noticing that, that's when you can start to realize, oh, wow, I am being a little judgy. Maybe I'm not giving this person the benefit of the doubt. And then finally, the last thing I want to say about judging is, and there's questions at the end, so if you have questions or want to dispute me or whatever, please write them down and then we'll chat at the end. But the one thing I want to say about that, and I'll finish with being judgy, is just because it's not a good thing, at least in my opinion, is to be judgy while dating, that doesn't mean you just have to accept everybody or accept anyone as a potential mate. And the way that you can make that decision without being judgy is, instead of practicing judgment, practice discernment. So judgment will say, that guy's too this, or he's too this, or he doesn't do this, or I think he's, you know, this was mean, or just anything that is a qualifier generally would be judgy. Well, discernment is saying, that's not for me. I'm not cool with that. That just doesn't really fly with my values or what I believe. And the difference between that is, when you judge someone, a lot of pain and disappointment come from that, because when you're judging someone, you are trying to understand that person of why they believe that, whatever that they believe, or you are trying to be understood for what you think or what you believe. And through that comes a lot of pain and discomfort and regret, and it's just not really worth it. You can just decide, you know what, I don't need that. Like, that's a yes or a no. That's what discernment is. It's a yes or no. And when you say yes or no, you don't have to, you release the need to be understood, and you release the need to understand. Because here's the thing. If a guy says a really horrible thing, or has a value that you don't agree with, or is just something that you think is mean or hateful or not nice, if they're saying those things out loud, operating under the truth that we project outwardly the things that we believe about ourselves. So if he's saying something this awful out loud, imagine the things that he's saying to himself inside. So I kind of use that as a little bit of sympathy to say, okay, I'm gonna just say no and walk away, and feel a little bit of sympathy for him, because wow, he must be a really upset person. So that's judgment, releasing the need to make blanket statements. And when you make blanket statements about a city or a guy or a group of guys, always reverse that and see if the reverse is true. To not judge based on things that would look good, quote unquote, on paper, and then to practice discernment instead of judgment, and see what that does for you. And we're not gonna hook into everything. I mean, I could just go on and on about this, but discernment and judgment requires boundaries, which we will get into a little bit. But I think boundaries are, I think that a lack of boundaries, or too many boundaries, and a lack of validation are the two root reasons for every single marital relationship dispute. If someone wants to dispute me on that, or give me an example where I can't relate it back to those two things, I'd be very curious to hear. All right, so that was judgment. The second thing that I think women, smart women, make a mistake with is we emasculate men. And this gets into a really, really difficult subject, at least for me. I was a sociology major, so I learned about, when I was 18 and, through my, teens and then early 20s, like when I came to realize how I see the world, I saw it through these economic systems, social systems, and through a lens of gender equality and even race equality. And so for me to talk or hear things about masculine and feminine energies, for me, it used to make me feel really uncomfortable. And I would identify and hold on to my masculine qualities to save my life as a rejection of stereotypical feminine energies. So let me break that down a little bit. So masculine energy is going to be work at work, where you're working really hard, you're goal oriented, you're working towards a certain result or an end game. So that's masculine energy. And feminine energy, at least in the way that society portrays it to be, really comes down to nurturer, caretaker, mother, and then the maiden. And then if a woman is anything outside of those characteristics, it tends to be negative, like a slut or dumb, or all of these things that we obviously don't want to be. And so we reject what we believe or what we're taught to be as feminine and hold on to our masculine energies. And the other thing I want to say before I move on is when we talk about masculine and feminine energies, we have to get out of the mindset of male female. And again, that's just something that society does for us, but we have to break away from that. Masculine and feminine energies do not necessarily correlate to male and female, because the truth is both males and females need time in their masculine energy and need time in their feminine energy. And when you are rejecting feminine energy and holding on to your masculine energy for dear life, you are not allowing enough space in your relationship for the man to have some of his masculine energy. And so that there's no place for him and he leaves. So if you've been in a situation or a number of situations where you meet a guy and it's going really well, and then after a month or two, he leaves and you can't figure out, I guarantee you this is a really good place to start. Because think about it. It's not just men want to provide something or feel needed. I think both parties in a relationship want to feel like they're contributing or feel like they're needed in the relationship. Because the truth is, when you really love someone, you want to give into that relationship because it makes the other person happy, and you see that, and then that makes you happy. So if you aren't allowing a guy to do anything for you or to take care of you in any real way, and I don't mean like financially and you have to quit your job and then stay home. Like, I don't mean that. I mean something just simple, like bringing you dinner because you're at work late, or opening the frickin' door. I mean, sometimes that's not a bad thing. Sometimes it feels really nice. If you're not allowing a guy to do that, then ultimately he's not going to be happy in that relationship, because we're emasculating him. I know that's a big topic, and all these things, I mean, we can make a whole webinar about each one of these topics, but definitely something to start exploring in yourself. And so the two most common archetypes, I think there's 7 or 8 feminine or female archetypes. The two most that are accepted in our society are the maiden and the nurturer/mother. If you're interested in learning more about the archetypes, then I'll send you a link to kind of, you can take like a little quiz and see which archetype you go with. But I just want to say one more thing about that. And so these archetypes come from a lot of old yoga theory, and it doesn't mean you have to, become a yogi or worship the deities or whatever. It's just something to learn from. And some of the deities and yoga are or some of the goddesses, they're warriors. Like, they're not like the prissy princesses that we might think of today as feminine. So just something to think about when you are when you're dating or when you're with your man. And then the last thing we do, and this is going to be short and sweet, and it's very similar actually to judging. I just wanted to make its own category because I think it happens a lot. But that is, we do a resume exchange. Whether we're dating online or offline, it just becomes a resume exchange. And I understand that there has to be some sort, especially when you're online dating, there has to be some sort of thing that you discern, whether or not something is for you. But I just highly, 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 highly recommend not using things that you put on your resume to make that discernment. It just doesn't work, and it's definitely easy for us to draw back to, because I think that we base a lot of who we are based on what our resume looks like. But it's actually really not who we are. And like I said before, you can have the guy working at the law firm who you think sold his soul to work there, but really he might be trying to help his parents retire, whereas the guy who works on Capitol Hill is a complete jerk. So you just don't know. So my challenge for you is to, whether you're dating online or if you meet a guy and you're on a date or whatever, try to not ask what that person does within the first 5 questions that you ask them. That was something I started doing, and it definitely changed my dating experience. And actually, I'll tell you about my Stevie, the person I'm in a relationship now. So I actually met him when I was looking for a guy who worked in some sort of political social field that I was in. And Stevie works for the government, but he's actually an engineer, and he has a completely different mindset or just outlook on how the world works and systems, because he's a freaking engineer, and like he does physics and math, and like that's just not what I do. I haven't taken a math class since 12th grade in college or in high school. So and whereas I saw the world through social systems and based on race and gender and socioeconomic status, and so I just never thought in a million years that we would ever be able to make a relationship. And so when I met him, and I knew that he was an engineer because we met through a mutual friend, I didn't think anything of it. Like, yeah, well, this guy's an engineer. Like, I'm not going to date him, but he seems nice. So I'll, and he's friends with my friend. So I'll talk to him. I'll get to know him. I'm not going to be I'm not going to be mean about it. And it turns out we started dating. And so I just want to share that story where, and again, that goes back to the judgment that I was talking about before, but just to have a little bit of open-mindedness. You just never know. And sometimes when you feel like you're off your game, that's when you aren't looking for the one. And sometimes that helps you to create more authentic relationships. So just to recap, the 3 mistakes that I believe smart women make is we judge, so we should practice judgment instead of discernment. We emasculate men, so we should allow ourselves to be more in touch with our feminine energies as well as our masculine. So we're not discrediting that, we're not apologizing for it, and we're not saying that we should be, more feminine or less successful in our careers. I'm just saying that we need to spend some time in our feminine energy as well, so that we can be balanced, so we can allow somebody else in to who's also being in their masculine and feminine energies. And then the final one is just to try not to do the resume exchange, especially when you're online dating, and find other things to discern. So, you've got to figure out your values, what you actually need in a relationship, what you have to give in a relationship. Those are types of things that you want to discern when you date. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, the next two topics that I'm going to talk about, they're actually exercises. And the first one is about getting over your ex, stop playing victim, and stop repeating patterns, relationship patterns, I mean. This is actually a pretty intense exercise, and we're not going to have time to do it on the call tonight, because if you really were to do it, it would take you, if you really got into it, it would definitely take you a couple of hours. So we're not going to do that, but I'll tell you what to do, and then you can do it. And then I'm going to share with you the next level of my beta program, which will be a 6-week program, and we're going to actually break this exercise down, and actually really do it. And then the final thing is we'll do an exercise to discover love blocks. And we will actually do that on the call, should you choose. And I will also share some examples of what I discovered when I did this exercise and how that helped me in my relationship with Stevie. Okay, so getting over your ex, stop playing victim, and stop repeating patterns is actually really easy. All you have to do is forgive. And you don't even have to pick up the phone. You don't have to call your ex-boyfriend or the person who hurt you. You just have to release them from your space. Because here's the thing. If you've ever said anything along the lines of, well, I'm a little guarded. Let me just silence the person who came in. I'm guarded. I've been hurt. And I'm talking even traumatic things, not just like somebody dumped me and it hurt me. I'm talking even if you were abused sexually or otherwise, and raped, you can't play the victim card, and you can't hold on to that victim mentality, because what resists persists. And so you've got to release them from your space, because as long as you are the victim, they hold the power. And the best example I can give to this is, and I know it might be cliche, but it's Oprah. Oprah was, I don't know her whole history, but I know that she was a victim of incest when she was a child, and I think she was sexually abused. And I don't know about, I don't know but I know that she was sexually abused and a victim of incest from her uncle, and I don't know about who else in her family, but definitely a very traumatic childhood. And let me tell you this, if she did not do some sort of work around that to forgive those people that did this to her, she would not be where she is today. She wouldn't be there. It would be impossible, because there would be no space to allow all of the things that she has in her life now if those people still had power over her. I don't know if she actually had a conversation with these people, or if she just did some sort of like internal work to release and forgive these people. I don't know. I don't know her biography or story, super well, but I do know that she has released those people from her space. So if she can do it, we can definitely do it too. And the thing is, it's really easy to forgive. You don't have to call them. You don't have to actually forgive them in person. And if you've ever read Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert, she has this really, really beautiful scene where she, it's when she's in India, and she is at the ashram, the yoga place, the ashram, I guess is the best word. And there's this scene where she's talking about how she finally forgave her husband, where she released him from her space. And really, she's the one who dumped him and left him. So really, like, it wouldn't even make sense, and how we normally think of forgiveness, for her to have to forgive him. But what I mean by forgiveness is releasing people from your space and taking your power back. And there's a couple of things you can do, and I'll share both. One is pretty easy, and the other one is going to be a little bit more intense, and it's going to be a couple of hours. And so that, you know, is going to be something you just want to block off in your calendar and spend some time doing. But the first one is a super easy meditation. And you can even do it right now. I'm going to go a little fast, so you might want to go back through and do it later. But you just close your eyes and you put the person that you need to forgive, that you were mad at, that hurt you, in a bubble, and you look at them and you say, I forgive you, I love you, no, I thank you, and I love you. So I forgive you, I thank you, and I love you. And you can, and I mean, you can say like why you forgive them, why you love them, why you thank them. So for example, if you're, you know, I'm not going to go for an extreme case because I've never had, you know, I've never been a victim of abuse or anything, but so I'm just going to talk about an ex-boyfriend who I thought was pretty mean to me when he broke up. And I can say, I forgive you for, you know, I forgive you for saying those words to me. I didn't, and I thank you because I thought they were true, and now that I see that they're not true, and I love you for making me the person that I am today. So that's just a very quick example. I came up with that off the top of my head, but just go through one by one, each person, put them in a bubble, and then as soon as you say, I forgive you, I thank you, I love you, you blow them up, just like a bubble. And then the second thing you can do, and this is a longer exercise, is you want to take some paper or a notebook, you don't mind getting ripped up, and write down the situation, what happened. You write down the people involved, and then you go through and you basically kind of do the same thing, like I forgive you, I thank you, I love you, but you're writing it all out. So you're actually getting it out of your system. So if meditating is a little new or hard for you, and you want to do something else, then this writing exercise might be something that's really nice. And you write down each person that was involved in the situation, and you forgive them, you thank them, and you love them. And you'll notice that as you're doing this, there's one person that's involved in all of these situations, and that's you. So you also have to forgive yourself, you also have to thank yourself, and you also have to love yourself. And so you can release your, you can release your, excuse me, you can release your own regrets, or your own, just your own regrets you've had in your relationships as well. And that's also something that's probably holding you back and keeping you in a victim mentality. So that's forgiveness, getting your power back from the people who've hurt you, so you can break free of those patterns, not be the victim, and finally get over that ex. Okay, so the last thing, and I love this exercise, and I'm just gonna grab a glass of wine. So this is for real happy hour, so I'm just gonna grab a sip. And I know I'm talking really fast. I try to not talk so fast, but this is recorded, so I'll send this out afterwards. Also, I'm going to take questions. I think you can type something into the chat box in Google if you're there. So go ahead and chat a question, and I'm going to do Q&A at the end. And if you're on the call, like on the phone, okay, so yeah, being on the phone is not really going to work. If you, you can go to uberconference.com/Veronica Grant, and you'll see a chat box there, and you'll be able to type in your questions. If that's all too complicated and you're like, okay, you either email me at hello@veronicagrant.com, and I will I'll answer the questions, or write it in the Facebook group, the Date Yourself Facebook group. And some of you may not be in that Facebook group, so then just email me at hello@veronicagrant.com. All right. Okay. So grab a pen and paper if you don't have something in front of you already. And we are going to figure out your love blocks. It's super fun. And before we do that, I had some notes on my phone that I wanted to be sure to mention. So let me just pull those up just so I don't forget. Otherwise, I'm sure I will. All right. Okay, so discover your love blocks. So, and oh gosh, I could nerd out about this as well. So You're gonna just take a few minutes and think about your parents' relationship. And it doesn't matter if they are the sweetest, most adorable couple ever and you want to be like them, or they are divorced and had a horrible divorce. Whatever it is, just reflect on the relationship and write 5 things that you liked about it, and then 5 things you did not like about the relationship. So 5 things you liked about the relationship, and then 5 things you did not like about the relationship. And while you're doing that, I will talk you through just one example that came to me when I did this exercise. So, and then you're going to decide overall, did you like their relationship or did you not like their relationship? So to give you one example from my parents' relationship. So my parents had a incredibly nasty divorce. They officially got divorced probably 4 or 5 years ago, but it's been in the makings probably since I was probably for over the past 10 years or so. So it's been pretty detrimental for a while. And one thing that I didn't like about my parents' divorce, parents' divorce. The one thing I didn't like about my parents' relationship was that my mom had no sense of boundaries. So she had no sense of her own boundaries, but she also had no sense of my dad's boundaries. So let me give you an example. For her own boundaries, she said no when she really, or she said yes when she meant no. She would just, she thought that because she traveled a lot when I was young, and so she thought that when she was at home, she had to be all on. Like she was, she had to hang out with my dad constantly or us constantly. And like sometimes, even though she's not there, we just need our own space. We need to recharge from work or whatever. And then the other thing she did is she didn't do the reverse, which was respect my dad's boundaries, which was she would try to get my dad to do things that he didn't want to do, like go on a bike ride or try a new restaurant or go to some sort of concert that my dad wasn't interested in. And she would push him to go, and he usually would go. But over time, that deteriorates and leads to obviously a lot of resentment, feeling like you can't speak up because there's no sense of boundaries, and so there's no place in which to begin a conversation. And so when I was going through through this exercise, I realized, oh my gosh, I don't respect my own boyfriend's boundaries sometimes. And I was telling someone, I don't know if they're on the call now, about this earlier this week, but. So this is my business. I work from home. I do some private yoga on the side because I like getting out of the house every once in a while, and I love teaching private yoga. So I do have private yoga clients that I go to a few times a week. But other than that, I am pretty much here working. I talk to people on the phone or Skype. I'm writing a lot, but there's a lot of alone time. And Stevie, on the other hand, he works at a regular office, and he comes home and he just needs to be by himself. He needs to just not do anything. He needs to go into a room, close the door, and I don't know what he does, but he just needs his own time. And for a really long time, I was not respecting that at all. I was just like, Stevie, I'm here by myself all day. I need to talk to another human being other than our dog, and that's not even a human being. And he would usually, probably feel a little guilty, and then was just like, okay, fine, we'll hang out. But then, of course, he was grumpy, and he wasn't loving, and he wasn't how I wanted him to be. It was because I wasn't giving him the space that he needed in order to be the person that I wanted him to be. And so when I did this exercise, I was like, oh my God, I'm doing the same exact thing that my mom did, and it led to this horrible, nasty divorce, and I can't believe I'm doing the same freaking thing here. And so obviously I'm able to now recognize that and start to nip it in the bud. So let me just give you a couple of examples of what your parents' relationship might mean and how it might be reflecting on you, whether or not it was a good or a bad relationship. So if you actually feel like your parents weren't really there for you, that might actually even further contribute to the masculine energies that we were talking about before. the independence, not letting anyone in, being completely self-sufficient, not allowing anyone to support you in any way. So that might be one way that your parents are reflecting on you. Another is if your parents have this amazing relationship that you want to have, you might be putting so much pressure on yourself and the person that you're going on a date with, that you have these unrealistic expectations. Your parents are on a pedestal, and no one's able to get to that pedestal yet. So you've got to lower your parents down, and so that you can raise other people up. So this goes back to my mantra: date for fun, not for the one. So if you're dating for the one to recreate your parents' relationship, you might be setting yourself up for failure. The other thing is, if you're more of the black sheep in the family, like if your family did X and you kind of went off in your life to do Y, you might think that you're too wild and crazy for men to handle. And so you just assume that men can't handle you, and that's your persona, that's your wall. And whether or not you actually say that out loud to a guy you're on a date with, that's the impression, the energy that they pick up from you. So a couple more. If you felt like your parents didn't really make you feel special, or if you feel like you always had to impress your parents or get their approval, or if you had, like, this is a really specific example, but let's say you had a sibling who either was like sick in childhood or had some sort of disability, special need that acquired more of your parents' attention, you might actually be happy with any attention that you can get. And sometimes that's not very positive attention, but it's attention, and so you go for it. And so that's when you start dating asshole guys and people like that. And then let's see. Oh, and then the last one is, let's say your dad was not really emotionally available, or even your mom wasn't emotionally available, but because we're women, and assuming if we're dating men, if your dad wasn't emotionally available, you might just be attracting someone similar to your dad, and so that person may be emotionally unavailable as well. Let's see. And so what does this mean? Like, okay, so fine. Now we can maybe see these patterns. What does it all mean? It's like that Austin Powers. What does it all mean? Okay, so let me share with you the 4 steps of once you kind of figure out these patterns, what goes from there. So, okay, let's say you figured out that, oh man, I am trying to recreate my parents' relationship, and I have all these unrealistic, crazy, perfect expectations on the people I'm going out with. So let's just play with that one. The first step is unconscious incompetence. So this means you didn't know that there is a problem. You didn't know that you need something. You didn't know that there was a pattern that you were repeating from your parents. You just didn't know that it was there. And so that's probably where a lot of you might have been before this call, or before the Date Yourself program, or maybe you did realize some sort of thing that you were doing, recreating something from your parents. But generally, a lot of you might be in unconscious incompetence. But after doing this exercise, you might begin to start graduating to conscious incompetence. So that means now you know what you don't know. So now you're like, oh, so I am putting my parents on a pedestal, and I am trying to compare every single guy that I go out with to my dad, and it's not fair, and it's my dad's on a pedestal, and no one's ever going to be like your dad, because everyone's unique. So that's where you might be getting to. And then the third stage is you get to conscious competence. So that means now you know, and you know what to do, and you know how to do it, but you're just in training. So you have to think about it. It doesn't come naturally to you yet. You still have to think, oh man, I'm putting my dad on a pedestal. I need to stop comparing this guy to my dad. Or in my case, okay, I'm aware of the fact that I wasn't respecting my boundaries or Stevie's boundaries, so I just need to be more conscious of that and better of when I'm stepping on his toes. And then the final stage, and this is like guru stage, I mean, who knows if we'll ever get here, is unconscious competence. So that means you can do the thing you need to do without even thinking about it. And I mean, you can break this down in various areas of your life, different blocks that you see, because the thing is, once you start doing this stuff and start peeling back the layers of yourself until your truer self shines through, like it's kind of like one of those things, like once you you learn something, then you just realize how you don't know. So it can kind of be the same thing. So just to repeat, that's unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and then unconscious competence. And so a lot of us might be in unconscious incompetence and conscious incompetence. So if you want some help trying to figure out maybe what some of your blocks are, I've got a couple of things that you can do. So first, let's see, the first thing, sorry, I just saw an email, so I just wanted to see if that was a question from somebody. So the first thing that you can do is just ask the question right here. Everyone who did the happy hour, or not the happy hour, the Date Yourself program gets a 30-minute call with me. So I definitely hope you take advantage of that. And then the final thing that I want to share with you is something I kind of just decided to do within the past week, but I'm super excited about it. And it's been in the works, but it's just kind of like, am I actually going to bring it into fruition? And that is bringing this beta program that I've been doing to the second stage. And so I think I briefly mentioned earlier, the second stage is, I don't have a name for it because it's still beta testing ideas, whatever. But it's essentially going to be, it's a 6-week program to basically break down all of the stuff that we talked about. And I'll tell you the stages. So it comes in 2 stages, and which each stage is broken down into 2 modules. So there's 4 modules altogether. So the first stage is attracting the right men. And the second stage is dating with more discernment and getting what you need in a relationship. So backing up back to module 1, that's attracting the right man, how to treat yourself the way you want to be treated. So this module is all about how and where to nurture all areas of your life, and developing and sticking to a self-care plan that works for you, and figuring out what I call your sacred 7. So figuring out where in your life needs support without compromising other areas of your life, so that and what these sacred 7 is going to help you do is it's going to help you, when I talked about discerning, when you're going out with guys, online dating, once you know what your sacred 7 are, it becomes so much easier to make boundaries with whether if you're already in a relationship or in a relationship, or if you need something to weed people out when you're online dating. And so then module 2 of attracting the right men. Module 2 is love yourself the way you want to be loved in 3 steps. So I take you through the 3 steps it takes that truly love yourself, so that others can love you exactly how you want to be loved. And this is really breaking down into the forgiveness exercise that we did before, releasing regret, disappointment, and exes for good. Whatever your relationships reflect the way you feel, and the way you feel about yourself, and what you resist persists. So this module is breaking all of that away. And then part 2 is dating with more discernment and getting what you need in a relationship. So that's part 2, and the first module in that part is how to know what you need in a relationship. So we're going to learn how to date with more discernment without being bitchy, judgy, or closed-minded about it, how to ask for what you need in a relationship that you're in, and to break free from dating the same guy over and over again. So this is going to be a ton of work around boundaries, a ton of work around your quote-unquote dating rules, and we're going to actually look at some relationship theories and just look and see what you actually do need in a relationship, and it may not be what you think. And then the final module, the final part of dating with more discernment and getting what you need, is men do want you, and it doesn't have to be a second job, it being dating. So it's about keeping the attention of men. So I know a lot of people are frustrated because they can attract men, but they have trouble keeping men. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to be in a relationship without losing yourself or compromising on your goals, and how to make dating fun and not your second job. So again, this will be a little deeper dive into looking into your boundaries, and a lot of also learning how to keep your own space. So, so let me come back to my video. Okay. So the way that this will run is that the first 2 modules will be just like this, a webinar hangout, and then there'll be a week between the 2 different parts. So there'll be 2 modules, a break, and then 2 more modules, and then the last week. And those 2 weeks, the break and the last week, are implementation weeks, where we'll have group coaching calls and an opportunity to have some one-on-one time with me to really figure out like what's really blocking you and keeping you from the relationship that you want. So I don't know if you're looking for your soulmate or your husband or just the boyfriend, but this will definitely help you really figure out what is blocking you, so that you can move into that conscious competence stage. So stage 3, where you know what you know and you know what to do, but you're just in training. So I'm putting this out into the universe. One day, this will be a program that has hundreds of women in it, and that will cost like $1,000 to join or something like this is like this I'm just putting to the universe, because whatever you put out in the universe comes back. So I believe that, so I'm putting it out there. But I, obviously I have a lot of testing and building, and it's not so much the content I'm worried about. It's more about the sequencing and the format, and just kind of the techie stuff as well. So for being a guinea pig, I would love to have you join us. And to be a guinea pig, it only costs $97. And all of my beta clients, all the beta testers, get access to the program for life. So even if this becomes like a $5,000 program, you still got it. So you'll never have to purchase it again. So I would love to have you all join. I'm super excited about the content and the process that I'm going to walk you all through. I think it's going to be so helpful, and I think it's going to, I can't promise that you're going to find Mr. Right tomorrow or as soon as you finish this program, but I 100% know that it will definitely change the way that you date, and it will make your dating experience so much better. You'll be attracting the right guys. You'll be able just to, if it doesn't work out, then whatever, it just doesn't work out. You'll be able to just release it from your space and not get so down a shape. You won't be on your phone like, oh my God, when's he going to text, or should I text, or in the middle of all these dating games that just drive you crazy. So and just some more logistics, it'll start on Wednesday, October 28th. And I know we've got some holidays, so the schedule is going to be slightly wonky, but Wednesdays at 7:30. And it'll go for, there'll be about 45 minutes to an hour of content, just like tonight. And then because again, it's beta and I'm trying to figure things out and testing things, I'll stay on as long as I need to answer everyone's questions and to make sure everyone gets the support that they need. And let's see, there was one other thing I was going to, if you can't make the calls, but you're interested in doing it, or you can't make one or all of them, then I still encourage you to do it, because you're going to get that access to it for life, and it'll never be $97 again. I can assure you of that. And everything's recorded. So if you can't make a call, you've got a question, then just type it in, or send me a voice memo, and I will answer it on the call. And then when we do have your one-on-one time, that'll obviously be based on both of our schedules. So that won't be a problem. And for anyone who signs up for the program before tomorrow at noon, I'm going to send you my favorite book on relationships. So excuse the sticky notes. So if you're on the call, or on the webinar, you can see it. It's called I Need Your Love. Is that true? By Byron and Katie. This book is freaking genius, and I love it. And I do draw some things that I learned from her book and what I teach, but obviously, I'm not going to just reiterate her or sit here and reiterate her entire book. So her book is brilliant. And if you're on the call earlier when I was talking about when you make a judgment about somebody or someone you're on a date with, and you say, oh, he's so this or he's so that, and to reverse that, is that true? That's pretty much the premise of her book, and it's freaking brilliant. So that is everything that I have with for you tonight. I have no idea if the if the Google Hangout will work in terms of giving you the the link to sign up, but I will try. And then if you don't get it, I will post it in the Facebook group. And for the people on the phone, I will go ahead and post that into the Facebook group as well, to join us for the next stage. I would love to have you all. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and, if you're on the call, or if you're on Google Hangout, go ahead and type them in. Although if you did type something, I'm not seeing it, but I'm pretty sure it's user error and not you. Okay, so I don't know if anyone's able to see this. I've had some issues with chat before on Google Hangout. When we do the webinars for the beta program, we're not using Google Hangout because there is no reliable chat function, I should say. Okay, so I'm going to post the link into the Facebook group. And I did get kind of one comment / question beforehand, which I'll address, which is, should I be upfront about guys that I want to be in a relationship? And, you know, I think that, well, I think actually, hopefully what I talked about tonight should help you to, hold on just a second. Someone just came on. I'm going to mute. Okay. So I think that's what we talked about tonight. Hopefully should help you give some clarity around if you should be upfront. Excuse me. With guys, if you want to be in a relationship and they don't. But here's the thing. I think that if a guy tells you, oh, I just got out of a relationship and I'm just not really into one, or I'm not looking for a relationship now, honestly, I think that's a bullshit excuse. I think they're just looking for an out. And I think the truth is that they just weren't that into it for whatever reason. And it might just be because there wasn't a click and there wasn't that chemistry there. And that's totally possible. And like, that just happens. I mean, that's kind of, you know, how this whole thing works. But the other thing that might also be true is you might have been repelling this guy because of one of the three things that we talked about, the judging, emasculate, and the resume exchange. So that's also something to look out for. And the other thing is that I think that there's two other things. One, I think that, you know, I think when you really start to become more intuitive to yourself through self-care, self-love, self-trust, and self-acceptance, then you just start attracting the people who want what you want. And it's just an energy thing. It's a thing about law of attraction, putting vibes out into the universe. And the last thing I want to say about that, and it just left my mind what I wanted to say. Oh, the other thing is, you know, I don't know if you're meeting these people online or offline, but especially if it's online, there's certainly no harm in just being upfront about what you're looking for. I know some apps don't really allow you to do that. Like, I think Tinder, you can't say what kind of relationship you're looking for, but I know on a lot of platforms you can. And I don't think you don't have to apologize to ask for what you want. And if you're looking for a relationship, I don't think you have to feel embarrassed or ashamed or think that's being too much. Now, is it saying, like, you know, pulling a Ted Mosby and telling them that they love them on the first date? Yeah, probably not. Not a good move. But I don't think there's anything wrong with, you know, being a little upfront with what you're looking for, just so you're not wasting either one of your time. So I hope that helped. If there's more follow-up to that, please let me know. So I'm not seeing any other questions in the Facebook group. Let me refresh. And then if there's nothing else, then we will go ahead and sign off. Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything, but if anything else came up, then please send me an email, or again, you all get a free 30-minute call with me. So, you know, any questions, I know sometimes you don't want to talk out loud. You know, if you want a little bit of anonymity, and I totally get that. So that's totally cool. So if that is you, then just go ahead and shoot me an email, or send me, or you can post the question in the Facebook group as well. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I said this webinar would be an hour, and I think we are coming right up on the hour. So look out for an email from me about my next stage of my beta program. I super hope that you join me. It's going to be an amazing program. And again, if you register by tomorrow at, I think I said noon, then I'll send you my favorite book, I Need Your Love. Is That True? By Byron Katie. I know some people said, oh, my friend XYZ or my sisters would be interested. Definitely feel free to, this does not have to be just within the Date Yourself program. So if you know somebody who would think would benefit from this, then please send them my way. I would love to support them. And if you've ever had, like if you have those girls that always are your girls that you go talk to about your dating, or complaining about guys, or just the dating life or whatever, then definitely this is for them as well. So I hope that you will invite them. This program isn't about necessarily dating. It's about getting yourself ready to get back out there and date, if once you're ready. So it's not like I'm walking you through how to do your first date and your third date and all that stuff. I think you know how to do that. It's just becoming more, it's just treating yourself the way you want to be treated. And that's exactly what it is. That's my tagline for my new business. And that's that. So have a wonderful evening. Again, anything else comes up, please let me know. And I will see you guys in the Facebook group. The Facebook group isn't going anywhere. I'm going to keep it open because that'll be a part of my freebie gift that I give away to people coming to my website who want to get into my community. So it's just going to hopefully continue to be a community of women just looking for support from other like-minded women, just about dating and relationships and body and sex and love and food and treating yourself like $1,000,000. So, all right, I'm signing off now. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and I will chat with you all soon. Bye.